Hello dads, hope you're doing wonderfully well today. In today's video I want to talk about a topic that might be scary for some men out there, and it is the topic of being an emotionally healthy father. Now, a lot of us men struggle with our emotions. We struggle with talking about our emotions. There is still this narrative out there among men that showing emotions or expressing emotions or being in tune with your emotions is seen as a negative thing or seen as a weakness. But it's so crucially important in terms of your parenting to be aware of your own emotional state, and how that's impacting not only on you but the environment your kids are growing up in, and how your emotional state impacts how you interact and engage with your kids. So in this video I want to talk about what it looks like to be an emotionally healthy father. And there's 4 principles in this. We're only going to look at the first principle, and it's this idea that you are your child's biggest challenge. You are your child's biggest challenge. So hear me out on this, because what I'm saying is coming from a place of love and compassion. This isn't condemnation, it's not blaming, it's none of that. But I want you to hear what I actually mean, because the reality is you are the key to how your child thrives in life. You are the key to how your child grows, the beliefs that they form. Your role really matters in your child's life. So how you show up, how you interact, how you react to difficult things, ultimately how you parent, impacts your child. So everything begins with you and how you're being as a father. So I want you to think about what would you do different, or what would be different in your life and in your family's life if you were to parent and be a father from a more intentional space. If you were to become more emotionally present or emotionally aware of your reactions, what would be different? What would change? Your reactions to your children reveal more about you than they do about your kids. So the call is really for us as dads to do the inner work, to become aware of how we react to our children. And we've got to do that inner work. We've got to show up as the best version of ourselves, not just for us, but for our kids and for our families. So let's look at it a little bit deeper here. So you probably have heard the proverb, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they are older, they will not depart from it. I heard somebody shift that and change that and put it on its head, and they said this: train up a parent, train up a father in the way they should go, and when their child is older, they will thrive. I absolutely love that, because it puts the onus on the parent and the focus on the parent in terms of how they are operating in the world, and the impact that they have on their kids. Train up a parent in the way they should go, and when their child is older, they will thrive. Regardless of the age of your kids, there's always going to be these milestones or these developmental times in a kid's life that requires us to show up differently as a parent. So you'll show up differently as a parent when your child is, between 0 and 7, and when your child is a teenager. But we're always constantly growing and learning and adjusting. When we are intentional and when we are aware, we're always changing and adjusting how we parent and how we engage with our kids. And the more that we become more emotionally aware and more spiritually mature, we actually become better parents, because we are connected, we're aware, we're engaging with where our kids are at and who our kids need us to be at that time. So unless we intentionally grow in emotionally health, then the likelihood is that we will parent the way that we've been parented. And I don't know how you've been parented, but certainly um, you might have had a great experience of parenting and you can take a lot of lessons into that. My experience of being parented wasn't that great. So I needed to do a lot of unpacking of my experience. Otherwise, I would parent the way that I was parented. And in fact, if I'm being honest, there's times when I react in a certain way that reminds me of how I was parented. And my awareness of that leads me then to thinking about, okay, I need to change some of these patterns. And you might be repeating patterns of the past. You might be repeating patterns that you have experienced from your parents. You might react to certain situations with your kids out of fear. You might be projecting your own unresolved issues onto your kids. So this is why the inner work is so crucial, because we want to be parents that are able to respond instead of react. There's an American author, educator, and activist called Parker Palmer, and they write this: a leader is someone with the power to project either shadow or light upon some part of the world and upon the lives of the people who dwell there. A good leader has high awareness of the interplay between their inner shadow and light, lest their actions do more harm than good. And I want to say this, dads, we are leaders. You are a leader. If you're a father, you are a leader. And we gotta be aware of this shadow and this light within us, and what we're projecting onto the world, and what we're projecting onto our kids. A good leader, a good dad, has high awareness of the interplay between their inner shadow and the light. So a good dad has awareness of those parts of them that need healed, those darker parts of our personality, those parts of us that are coming from a place of fear, of rejection, of our own inner hurts. And we have this high level of awareness of how that is impacting not only us but our kids. And we are leaders, dads. You cannot deny that. Our job is to lead our family and to lead our kids, and to do that in the most loving way that we can. But how we show up and how much of our own baggage that we've dealt with, it really can impact our kids' lives. And so it's important that we do this inner work, that we do this reflective work. I was doing a podcast yesterday, and one of the things that we talked about was how my kids are my greatest teachers. Now, I don't mean that my kids are sitting down and teaching me how to be a father, or teaching me how to do maths or something. Although my kids do teach me about the latest trends, that's for sure. But my kids are my greatest teachers in terms of showing me parts of my life that are still out of balance, parts of my life that need examined and looked at. And the way this happens is through how I engage with them and my reactions to them. So every time that you find yourself reacting strongly or emotionally to your child, whether that's frustration, whether that's anger, whether that's anxiety, usually that is a part within us that needs our attention, a part within us that's unhealed. Because when we react instead of respond to your situations, when our buttons are being pressed, it's an invitation actually to go inwards and to look at, what is that button? What is that button creating inside of me? What is this reaction? Why did I react in that way? What is that saying about me and my past? Because our reactions are revealing what's already inside us. It's our kids can't make us feel something, you know. Nobody can make you feel something. I can't make you feel angry. I can trigger anger within you, and that anger was already there. I can't make you feel frustrated. I can trigger frustration within you because that frustration was already there. So it's an opportunity for us to actually practice something that's called the pause. So when you're triggered, when you feel these big emotions coming up within you, you can practice the pause, which is simply just taking a moment to breathe and to decide how you want to respond to your kids. What would be the most loving way to engage with your kids? And sometimes you might need to go into the other room. Sometimes you might need a little bit of time to process. And if you are taking that time to process, then you're really asking yourself the question, you know, what does this reaction reveal about me? How am I reacting in the moment? And what is this saying about me? What is this revealing about my past? You might ask yourself, what am I afraid of? You might ask yourself, how is my past shaping my response in this moment? So let me give you an example. My eldest daughter was struggling with maths. She found maths really, really difficult. Anytime she was doing maths, she would just shut down, and she would find, you know, what most people would consider easy and very, very difficult. And I always wanted to help her, and I tried to help her. And what I noticed, even though I had the best intentions of supporting her, trying to teach her something, I always noticed that it ended up with me getting so frustrated and so annoyed, and my daughter getting so anxious and going quiet and shutting down, that it always ended up me just getting into a strop and storming off. Now, I could blame her for that. I could blame her for that reaction, that, you know, she wasn't trying hard enough, or you know, I can't believe that, you know, she wasn't listening to me properly. And those are the thoughts that are going on inside my head. But once I paused and once I reflected on what was going on and looked a little bit deeper to my reaction in that moment, it really wasn't about her. There was something happening within me, and what was happening within me was that I was actually feeling ill-equipped to be able to deal with the situation. And as her father, I want to be able to help her in all things. But in this moment, no matter what I was trying or how I was trying to explain it, it wasn't getting through, so I felt ill-equipped. I felt that I wasn't quite good enough as a father in that moment. And that was just triggering feelings of shame, of guilt. And it was even bringing up for me times I struggled with maths. All my life I've struggled with maths, and in particular when I was in primary school I struggled with maths, and I remember feeling so stupid. So all of those feelings underneath the surface were going on, and it was coming out in frustration, it was coming out in being really pushy and being agitated when she wasn't understanding what I was telling her or what I was explaining to her. And the more that I reacted in that way, the more that she shut down and went quiet, and we just got caught up in this vicious circle. So you can see there, you know, that wasn't about her, it was about me. My reaction was about me. It wasn't about her inability to do something. It was about the emotional state that I found myself in underneath the surface. And the truth is that our kids absorb our emotional states. They absorb how we're feeling. So when we're feeling anxious, they feel it. When we're reactive, they mirror it. But when we're able to take control of our emotional states, when we do the work to be able to remain calm, to be self-aware, to be connected, We create an environment where our kids can thrive. We create an environment where our kids feel like they can get something wrong and still work through things. So that requires, if we want to be men who create that type of environment of calmness, and of connection, then we got to control our own emotional states. And part of that is understanding our own story. So to parent differently, we got to reflect on the parenting that we received. We got to look at what was good about it and what was bad about it, what lessons we took from it. Many of us were raised in environments where love had conditions, where emotions were suppressed, or our parents tried to control us without realizing it, and we can carry those patterns into our parenting. So we gotta, men, take time to reflect and to let go of some of the parenting that happened to us. One of the things that in my family, we weren't a family of showing a lot of affection. We weren't the huggy type, and we weren't the type of family that said, I love you very easily. So as I reflected on that when I became a father, I wanted to intentionally change that. So I want my kids to know that I love them immensely. And I tell them every day that I love them. I try my best to give them hugs and connect with them and be present in that way, because I know how important that is, and I know what it's like when you don't get that. So from that pain, I intentionally chose to show up differently. So I encourage that with my own kids, to hug, to show love in that way, because if I don't, then I could intentionally pass on what happened to my family, and that's not what I wanted. Growing up, I always felt like I needed to perform, to get things right. It wasn't really safe for me. I never felt safe unless I was doing things correctly or doing things right. I got a lot out of, being affirmed in that way. Because deep down I never felt good enough. So when I got things right, I felt like I was enough, particularly in primary school. So my own level of self-awareness around that means that now with my own kids, I try my best not to celebrate them, doing things or achieving things, although it is important. I will congratulate them. What I put more attention to or emphasis on is the effort my kids put in. I do my best to call out the person that they're becoming, or the character traits that they see in them, rather than I'm achieving something. Again, because I know that what's more important is who they're being and the character that they are and the character traits that they've demonstrated, rather than achieving something or achieving a grade. I'll always say what's most important is the effort that you put in, as opposed to the outcome. So always do your best and show up as your best. And if the results show, happy days. If they don't, you've done your best, and that's okay, and that's all that matters. Right now, I'm learning to celebrate my kids' uniqueness and the paths and the choices that they take, rather than trying to impose my own expectations on them, particularly with my eldest daughter, who is becoming a teenager. I want to be the type of dad that isn't saying you need to be this way, do this way, or follow a certain path, but I want to be the dad that is there as a mentor and as a guide to encourage my children to walk on their own unique path, and try my best not to impose that. And that's one of the most powerful tools in parenting, to be honest with you, is creating space for our children to be able to explore who they are, to be able to make choices and decisions, to be able to fail and get things wrong, and to know that their dad is always going to be there, listening without judgment, guiding them without trying to control, and really allowing them to follow the path that God has called them onto, their own unique path, not what we think their path should be like. And my mum is a brilliant example of that. I remember being a young teenager and making decisions and making life choices that weren't great for me. And I never felt judged by her. I never felt like she was trying to pressure me into being something that I didn't want to be. But as a lot of the choices that I made were, I'm sure they broke her heart, and they were very difficult for her to stand by and watch. She remained present with me. She prioritized connection over control. And I have so much gratitude for that. She always asked the difficult questions, was willing to engage, and even challenge what was going on, and tell me how worried she was at times. But it never felt like she was trying to control me in any way. I never felt like she was judging me in any way, but she was keeping that relationship alive, and keeping that love there. So when you think about the idea and the principle that you are your child's biggest challenge, you're also your child's biggest advocate and biggest opportunity to thrive. So if you're able to think about your own story, if you're able to reflect on your own reactions, if you're able to become more emotionally aware and attuned to how you interact with your kids, and to have tools and techniques to be able to emotionally regulate, the environment that you create is an environment where your kids will be able to connect with you, trust you, and ultimately thrive. So your greatest parenting tool is your own emotional health and your own spiritual health. Listen, thank you for being here today. I really hope that you found something in this useful. If you have, let me know what you found most useful in the comments below. And if you know a dad that you think would benefit from hearing this video today, this message today, then please do share it with them. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. And remember, dads, you've got what it takes.